Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday live stream. And this is 24 hours roughly before we get the Fed rate decision. So I have to apologize in advance for this video. It's going to be heavily bullish. And if you've been around for quite some time, you know that I don't like to give too much bullishness because it kind of skews the thought process, I think, of some people. And I try to give a balanced type of discovery of what's going on. Unfortunately, that's not really the case today. It's been very bullish. So again, apologize in advance, and let's just get into it. So the first thing, as you may have noticed, I'm talking about the French business channel, that is BFM. And I had never heard of this before in my life because I've been to France twice, and I do not pay attention to mostly what French TV is doing. But I had to ask this question because they had a couple of good guests on. They were talking about Bitcoin. They compared Bitcoin to gold and also why the US dollar is so weak. And the things that he said made a lot of sense that I'm going to actually add to my repertoire of things that I'm going to talk about as far as the difference and how Bitcoin is superior to gold. Now, if you're a gold bug in the audience, welcome. Secondly, you should know that I also own gold. And I think that it's a great hedge against inflation. And I own silver as well. But when you take a listen to this, it really does make things crystal clear just how superior Bitcoin is at this point. Unless you want to wear Bitcoin for jewelry, then yes, gold beats the tar out of it. So just real quick, BFM Business is part of France's largest news media platform. This is not some offshot type of representation of the news programs that are in France. It's very large. BFM TV making is a large and influential entity, especially in the business news sector. So if you are from France, sound off. I mean, this is just what I read on the internet. I verify with a couple of sources, and it looks like it is pretty good moving forward. So without further ado, I'm going to play this clip. It's actually quite long. It's about 5 minutes, and it's in French. So there's a lot of people that don't watch my videos. They just listen, they just plug in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to translate for you because I am fluent in French. Just kidding, it has subtitles on. So I'm just going to read this to you as things go through. Again, this is about 4.5 or so minutes. So let's just go through it. So the announcer is saying, hey, you recently wrote an article about the future. Let me turn this off. The future of our monetary systems because they are undergoing a complete transformation. Or a full transformation. Is this monetary system that is in place disappearing, tipping over, or what's going on? And the gentleman says a monetary system is actually the system through which trust passes. The economy is simply a trust device. Interesting. And for this trust system to work, it needs, like any other large device, it needs a keystone. The keystone of trust historically was gold a long time ago, right? If I told someone I have 5 gold bars, well, that person would tend to give me credit to trust me. Gold has a number of advantages, but it has one big disadvantage. It's not auditable. And when he's talking about auditable, what he's saying here is that, first of all, I didn't know this was a thing until I did a little research. Did you know that people sell their gold and or silver and they put other non-precious metals into those bars to make it weigh a little bit more so they can get paid more? Now, obviously, there's easy ways to detect this, but this is from Business Insider. Manhattan jeweler wound up with gold bars filled with tungsten. And again, you can audit it. I think there's other devices that you can use, like some kind of ultrasound that can determine if it's 100% gold or not. I don't know if that's more in play, but you see, this is what it is. They melt down gold, they put tungsten or there's some non-precious metals, and then they sell it to people, or they say, yeah, this is 100% gold, and people get ripped off. So you don't know how much is there. Fort Knox, as a matter of fact, we're still waiting for that audit to see if gold is actually there and if it's 100% pure. But you can see stuff like this. It's very difficult in that regard. So I know when the gold bugs talk about it, they kind of fail to mention this part. And again, I still believe that gold's very well, but if you're looking for an audit, you know exactly what Bitcoin is, you know exactly where it is. You can audit it for the, 20 million or so. There's another million to be mined. but it is 100% auditable as opposed to going into Fort Knox, again, we're still waiting, or different other central banks to see, do you really have that gold? We know exactly where the Bitcoin is, especially for these digital asset treasuries. Okay, so let's keep moving. So he said, if I had 5 gold bars, either trust me or you want to audit my gold bars. The only way to audit them is to melt them down. So, which again, that's who's doing that. Example, if a large monetary body near the Louvre says, I have X amount of tons of gold. Well, this gold stock has almost never been audited. Is necessarily still a problem that we have confidence. The successor to gold was the American dollar. If I told you I had dollars, you would trust me. And there are a large number of observers, perhaps the greatest of whom is Donald Trump, who says openly that he says that objectively, the interest of the United States of America is undoubtedly to devalue the dollar. And if we're the keystone of trust in terms of value, well, that is still not very compatible with the prospect of a devaluation of a loss of the value of this key frame. So what he said there, I know people say, is that true? Is it? Yes, that is what's going on. The US dollar is being devalued. And that's actually, I mean, if you're just in dollars, this is bad news. It's just the truth. However, there is a symbiosis between the price of Bitcoin hitting all-time highs, and if we take a look at the strength of the dollar, the DXY, how when the DXY goes down, you see Bitcoin hit all-time highs because the dollar is weakening. And usually what happens is people say, well, the dollar is weak, I need something that is strong. And people can go into precious metals, or they can go into certain equities, or they can go into Bitcoin. And you can see here, as far as all-time highs, just look at the chart. And some of you can see it, some of you can't, but I'll just tell you that on November 29, 2013, when Bitcoin went from, over a year or so, like $10 up to 1,000, the DXY was 80. In 2017, when it hit its all-time high of 19,000, DXY was 91. In between those two time frames, you can see that the DXY actually went up massively in strength, and the Bitcoin valuation went down. Now move forward, 2017. Oh, I messed this up right here. 2017, that's 2021. Let me change that on the fly. Bam. 2021, April 13th, DXY was 98. Bitcoin's price was 63,000. And you can see in between how the DXY went up, Bitcoin price went down. And then and also on November 9th, DXY hit 95, but it still went up 67,000. And of course, right now where we're roughly at around 96 to 97 as far as the DXY. And that's why we're hitting all-time highs yet again, or just part of the reason. There's many reasons. There is the M2 money supply, there is liquidity, there's rates, there's geopolitical factors. I get it all, yes. But what he was saying here is that as the dollar weakens, you have to take a look at what is best for me. And I can't tell you what that is, but for me, I think it's a pretty good bet to go into Bitcoin. And of course, a little gold. Okay, so let's finish this up. So the United States is an interest in ensuring that the key to their future quest for trust is no longer the dollar. And there's a little animal that raises its hand, its finger, and says, I'm a candidate. It's called Bitcoin. And very interestingly, and in parallel, the United States is developing objective incentives for American entities, institutions, companies, individuals, or American administrators to hold Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, digital asset treasuries. So we're heading towards a destination where we might actually have 2 American currencies. Interesting. A currency that is a bit like the currency of the past, which is the dollar, and a currency, objectively American currency, is Bitcoin. And then the host says, it bothers me that you call it an American currency as far as Bitcoin goes, or a global currency. He says, yeah, it's objective. I mean, if all gold belongs to Rome, then Rome means gold is a Roman currency. And if most of the Bitcoin belongs to the United States, well, we can say that Bitcoin is in some way an advantage in the pockets of Americans. So they're becoming less and less likely to objectively seize, to objectively appropriate the maximum number of dollars to establish somewhere their position. Anyhow, that's essentially it, because the rest of it kind of trails off. but it's true. It's true in some ways. The most amount of Bitcoin mining operations are done in the United States right now. That is very true. The United States, I believe, is leading the charge to do a Bitcoin strategic reserve through the current administration. If we know that is happening, and other countries see that, and they're like, well, now we're kind of stuck because the world reserve currency is the dollar. And now America wants to shore that up with stable coins, whether that be USDT or Tether or the new Tether United States-based stable coin. Plus, now we have to contend with Bitcoin being a global reserve digital currency, and America owns that too. I just don't see a lot of these countries standing on the sidelines and going, okay, let's not do anything with it. But I could be wrong. Let me know what you think about that in the comments section. I just see that this is a pretty bullish development, but it comes back down to the current administration and what they're going to do. Well, from the Bitcoin historian, Pete states, Michael Saylor confirms he will attend Washington, D.C. meeting tomorrow, that'd be today, to advance the strategic Bitcoin reserve. America buying Bitcoin, it's coming. Now remember, the strategic reserve, everybody talked about how great this was. There's a lot of moving parts to that. They're not going to take taxpayer dollars, that's what they stated anyhow, to buy Bitcoin. However, the revenue that they did take in tariffs or other things, confiscations and so on and so forth, maybe they'll use that to buy Bitcoin. And I know people have their trepidations about what's happening with the tariffs. I get it, but it is what it is. And then I think that there's going to be even more of a push for Bitcoin in this current administration quite easily for the fact that the Trump family is essentially investing heavily into it. There's Eric Trump, and he just went public on NASDAQ with ABTC. I think it's a Bitcoin mining company. Correct me in the comments section. So your response could be, this is outrageous. How can the president of the United States do this to line his pocket? Hey, look, I'm not here to debate on the justice of that. I'm just here to tell you that this is what is happening behind the scenes, and it's up to you to do what you want with this information. You have a sphere of control. If you want to go and fight Eric and Donald Trump and say, you shouldn't do this because of this, and this is unconstitutional, sure. Or you can say, you know what, maybe this is something that I should invest into because for Pete's sakes, the president of the United States and his family are getting into it. Anyhow, that's what we have. And I know where I'm going to go with this. Speaking of global, as far as Bitcoin goes, Thailand, congratulations. You now offer 0% capital gains tax on Bitcoin. So if you're looking for a place to move, everybody, Thailand's a pretty great place, apparently from what I hear. A friend of mine, Brandon's over there. And yeah, 0% capital gains. I found this interesting that this is happening right now as they're making a case of why to move against, I think it's the baht, the currency over there. Did you know just yesterday, Thailand citizens are waking up to frozen bank accounts. Thailand froze 3 million bank accounts in an anti-scam crackdown, ensnaring users and prompting debate over whether Bitcoin offers a safer alternative. Well, let me tell you, one of the biggest problems using Bitcoin for payments here in the United States, we have to pay capital gains tax, long-term or short-term. Why the heck would we do that? Well, Thailand just said, you know what, let's just do away with that. There's some problems that we're having, so we're going to just move in that direction. Anyhow, if you've never seen like a greater instance of moving forward with Bitcoin, that's a great report. 72 hours, you can't get access to your money. And they just made Bitcoin no capital gain, so you can spend it as it's intended to be, peer-to-peer transactions. That is fantastic. Again, sorry for the bullishness. It's just, things are really starting to go pretty good. And then to finish this up, okay, I'm going to give you a little bearishness. This is my friend Steven, and he says this is Gareth Soloway. I want you to listen to this. This is pretty good. Gareth believes we're going to drop 50%. So no booing, freedom of speech, right? Let's see what he has to say and why things could go sideways quickly. Listen to this.
So I do think, I can't tell you where it's going to be in 10, 15 years from now. But after a correction that I do think we are close to, and I will go on record and say, I do think Bitcoin's going back to at least $75,000 a coin, probably by early 2026. But I do think at some point it goes a lot higher, and then we'll just have to see how the whole, world ending type scenario comes into play with it. But I do think that, again, society is craving an alternative to fiat currencies, and Bitcoin is that answer for now, along with gold, and people are willing to accept it. And as long as people accept it and can access it freely, then that still has a place in the future.
That's a pretty big statement. You see Bitcoin pulling back to $75,000 by 2026?
Yeah, and probably I would say within the first quarter of 2026, even cutting myself even lower here.
You wouldn't see a massive rally on the rate cuts, more liquidity, or then as the market starts to sell off, I guess the correlation has always been there. Is that what you would see happening with Bitcoin?
That's more what I see is the correlation, right? So if we look at 2021, when we had the bear market in the stock market, we obviously saw Bitcoin falling all the way below 20,000. I don't think it's going to fall as much because you have a much more diversified group of holders, including big players like BlackRock. But I do think, you're talking if the stock market corrects 20 or 30%, Bitcoin likely corrects 30 to 50%. From these levels.
He's right. Gareth Soloway is right. If the stock market goes down 20 to 30%, Bitcoin will go down 40 to 50%. He's absolutely correct. Will that happen? It's anybody's guess. But I can't just let you off the hook and just get all this bullishness and not hear another side to it. I personally believe at some point Bitcoin will have a pullback. Call me crazy. I don't think people talk about a super cycle and forever with small pullbacks. I think a major pullback can come in 2026. We'll see if I'm wrong. But Gareth on that one, again, he's right that there will be a big pullback. I agree. The question is the timing, and it's very difficult to get for everybody. And then lastly, with a couple of bullishness, is the Senate just cleared the Trump pick to the Fed board ahead of the vote, which is tomorrow. And this is Stephen Moran. He is now going to be taking over for Jerome Powell. That will not happen until next year. I want to say April or May. But I believe, I think he's still there and he can actually do the voting right now. Correct me. And then also, I think this guy is great for us. Just saying, as of 18th of August, 2023, he said Bitcoin fixes this. And he also said that in 2022. So I think we're in the right place at the right time with the right person as we start to cut rates. And lastly, as going along, shout out to TANGEM. Thank you for doing what I asked, which was getting Toncoin to be able to be staked on the app itself. That brings it to Tron, Binance Smart Chain, Solana, and Toncoin. And they also added support for Hyperliquid, which is great. Now I can get Hyperliquid off Binance US and stick it into one of my multiple TANGEM cards. And that's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, give a thumbs up, consider subscribing when we talk about it's time sensitive. Now we'll transition over to the Q&A. I'll answer all your questions, best of my abilities, and we'll go from there. All right. So what do we have today? Thank you. I always like Gareth or Rob's green screen is much higher quality. It's pretty good. And I know some people, they get mad at Gareth because he's made some calls and they didn't work out, but he's a trader. I mean, how many traders are, historically speaking, 60% right? 70, nobody's 70%. They're usually wrong. Not usually, I would say it's like a 52-48 split for good traders. That's why I just say, it could happen. Go from there. Let's see. Debt refinancing is coming up. So Frito says Guaynabo. That's right. Trader. I don't know who we're talking about. Maybe that's Gareth. Maybe that's me. Who knows? What's the risk band for Bitcoin at 75? Okay, it's a great question. Let's see. Let's see what it is. we'll just go to this website. And we'll take a look at, I got to tell you, I want to say thank you everybody who signed up for Ben's website. It is really good stuff. I mean, it's really like not just the risk levels, which I'm using heavily to get in and out. You know, if it worked. Okay, that was on me. All right, so let's see. So let's go to Bitcoin. 0.549. So for 75,000, it's not that far away as far as risk levels. You're looking at between 0.4 and lower. So we're at 0.54. I could see 75,000, sure. That's around 0.38, 0.385, somewhere around there. And now we're at 0.54. However, I think we go up before we go to 75K. And, you know, I'm hoping for 150K plus. That'd be great. I'd be very happy with that. But again, I'm not selling near the majority of my Bitcoin. We're looking at 20%, 25, maybe. The most of those profits will be altcoins. Let's see. Bison says fib numbers make the best targets. This is what Tommy Crown says too. Ooh, speaking of which, tomorrow for that Fed decision, Tom Crown, if you don't follow him, great guy. He always does really good J Powell events, as he called Chair Powell. And I think tomorrow we should all go over there. Just listen in as he gives us the breakdown of when Jerome Powell comes out and says, haha, 0 cuts, have fun, losers, or 50 basis points. I think it's somewhere in between those two. It's between 0 cuts and 50 basis points. Who's against me? I know. Yuki says, do you think that Tristan Thompson shilled World Mobile to Eric Trump on today's New York Stock Exchange bell ring event? I didn't know he was there. Tristan Thompson, he's a big ambassador for World Mobile. Again, World Mobile is what I use my phone service with. Works pretty well here. So, yeah. If he shilled him, probably. But I'm sure Eric Trump gets shilled like everything. I like Ben's newsletter. Yeah. Yeah. Ed's here. Just wondering, I think ADA needs to pass the Leo SIP ASAP. Yeah. Well, we will see. And I think that's it. Ned says, hey, Rob, can you please show the chart that shows the Bitcoin prices on election days? Yeah. I have to find it. Oh, I know where it is. So what we're talking about here, I guess that would kind of line up with what Gareth was talking about, actually, is I don't think that Bitcoin will go below 70,000. And this is why, because Bitcoin's never fallen below presidential day election prices. After November 6, 2012, it never dropped below $10. After November 8, 2016, it never dropped below $707. On November 4th, 2020, it never dropped below 14,133. Like I said before, it came close at 17,000 something. And now in 2024, once it hit 69,000, it's not going below that. Of course, things have changed. I mean, did we not hit an all-time high before the halving, I think? So that's never happened before, but here we are. Yes. Tau. 50 basis points and mic drop, we'll find out. D is correct. Rob's predictions are always spot on. He predicted Bitcoin would be between $1 and $1 million. And it's true. I'm undefeated post 2023. Rob is bullish, market crash is imminent. Exactly. Rob, did you place your market bet on zero cut? No. My friend Bobby placed a bet that it's going to 50 basis points. So let's see. Well, this one isn't even fun because it's 99%. I mean, someone could do this, break free, but let's see. Fed. Aha. Oh, look at that. This used to be at like 9%, 50 basis points. Now everybody's saying 96%. Well, Bobby put a little big bet on 50 basis points. So we'll see. Ooh, that'd be a nice one. 2.8 cents. Yeah, that's that. So we'll see how that goes. Remember, Jerry thinks it's going to be 0. Everybody else has 25. And my friend Bobby thinks 50. Hello, Dig. Joker says, why not just do a whole 1% rate cut? And they wouldn't have to do it again. If they did a 1% rate cut, 100 basis points, I think people would say, wow, there's something really wrong with the U.S. economy. I think that would freak everybody out. So they can't, I don't think they can do that. Yeah, 96%, somebody knows something. True. Goat says, that's not happening. 50 is a pipe dream. I don't even know if it's even a good thing. Like I said, like if we get 50 basis points, people are they're gonna question, like, well, maybe the economy itself is not near as robust as America makes it out to be. The Federal Reserve just dropped by 50 basis points. Regardless, it doesn't really matter. In the long run, we have to understand that in Q4, what are the headwinds against us? Not much. How about the tailwinds? Well, we're going to have more rate cuts probably. Tariffs seem to be not near as inflationary as most people think that they were going to be. As a matter of fact, that's why you saw like the PPI index, the producer price index went down. And when the producer price index goes down, usually it's a precursor for CPI. So if we have that in play, maybe it'll work out pretty well. But people will say, but Rob, you don't understand. Because with tariffs, what they did is they front ran all the tariffs in August and they shipped everything over as much as possible. And now we're just living on those pre-shipments, so they have to pay so many tariff taxes, which it's not a tax, but it's a tariff. So in that situation, you could be right. But a lot of these companies, I mean, if they really bloated up, then how far do they blow up? Like 6 months of supplies, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months? If that's the case, then we're not going to see an inflation until 2026. And in that situation, then Q4 of 2025 is going to be pretty damn good. So we have that. And again, what other tailwinds do we have? Well, we have the president and his family running Bitcoin businesses, for Pete's sakes. And I don't know what to tell you. Okay, I think that's it. And we'll leave it with Ed's last statement. The narrative is more important than the rate cut. It's true. So we'll see. We'll see if those 25 basis points is priced in like everybody believes it to be, or if we go up even more tomorrow. But as a note, I think yesterday for the S&P 500, actually today, I should say, it's not looking too hot. Over 5 days, well, actually started off pretty good, now dropping. But still much better than last week. So maybe people who already front ran this are saying, you know what, time to sell because we know it's gonna be 25 basis points. Like people believe it, and then off they go. But as far as like with our sector, look at that. Bitcoin's almost up a point, 24 hours. XRP's up, BNB's up, Solana's up, Dogecoin's up, Cardano, and so on and so forth. So just stick around for Q4. I think you're gonna really like it. That's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, thumbs up, subscribe, all that great stuff. Thank you guys for hanging around with me for half an hour. It was fun times. I'll see you guys on the next one. Adios.